Well, hi. Welcome back to Blunt in the Bedroom. This is Spirituality Part 2. I'm Patty and I'm here with Aureli, Antonio, and Raphael. Both of those last two are from my brother podcast, and we're so excited to have them back to talk more about spirituality. Well, yeah, yeah, I'm glad we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we left off on the idea of everyone being on their side of the mountain of spirituality. And I think that includes the idea that there's a top of the mountain where we all meet up at the end. And yay, it went well. Um, Anybody want to add to that or
Mm,
take it from there?
yeah.
You want to start?
I guess
I
top
have
would
an
be the
idea.
capstone.
I mean, I'm sorry. Let you go ahead and finish because I don't want to completely overrun. What I'm going to say is probably going to branch off into about three different conversations.
Go for it.
So, there was a Marvel series called Moon Knight, and it presented it in an interesting way that, this top of the mountain, this capstone, is essentially a way station. And depending on your belief, it's kind of where you go. I think we mentioned this last time with American Gods and Marvel, Moon Knight dipped into it as well because Moon Knight was essentially a avatar for one of the Egyptian deities. I can't remember which one it was, but as they was going through and doing all the different things, it was like, okay, everybody had their place at the way station and they're waiting for their number. Oh wait, actually no, it's American Gods I'm thinking about, different thing. It still ties in, but they were doing the sea crossing and the way station.
Hmm.
But American Gods did it where when you get in this waiting room, you're waiting for your number, and essentially you go through and kind of review your life and the way that you believe. So if you didn't believe in anything, there was nowhere for you to really go. You kind of just existed in this plane of nothingness for eternity because you didn't believe in anything. There was no direction for you to go at death. And the woman in the show killed herself, or actually kind of attempted suicide-ish by drowning herself in her hot tub. And so that's kind of where it was kind of replaying for her was that whole process of like, you're just going to be in this void of nothingness. That was where she went from the way station, whereas another person went to the scales with the Ebis, and another person went to somewhere else. But you had to get your number called, and then you go with this person, and then off to this whole different room of like, okay, this is where you're going because this is what you believe in.
Like
Yeah,
we create.
that kind of goes into a series I watched on Netflix. I can't remember the name, but I know they were like talking about the Order of the Blue Rose, where they were doing you got the witches, then you got like the werewolves, and there's a part where they kind of, I guess, like they die, but they go to like this place. It's called the collective conscious, I would say, and like everybody that died is sitting in that one spot. So I mean, they got different ways to tell you the same story, I guess.
Gotta
Yeah.
find that show. It kind of ties into what we were talking about one day about the whole theory that we had of the zodiacs and how everybody born under a same sign is collective consciousness of all the people born under those astrological signs. You're
Ooh.
sharing pieces of consciousness and experience, and that's why people in those different zodiac patterns have such similar traits, is because they could be sharing consciousness. The astral plane is essentially the cloud, and as a new person comes out, they pull from whatever. It's like, okay, well, I'm a Leo. James Baldwin is also a Leo. So it could stand to say, I pull some consciousness from James Baldwin, which is a very optimistic and hopeful thing. But the same can be said for several other people uh, in similar aspects.
Yep. I mean, that also goes to numerology. where you get your like I did mine. For me, I'm an 11. My life path number is a 2. So
Oh,
I
that-
mean yeah, it's kind of
what does that
it's a bunch of,
mean? Yeah.
okay. So the 11 is a master number. Like they supposed to have like spiritual powers and things of that nature. Like with as far as like the two is a negotiator basically. That's what they do. Even though I'm first born, I'm a number 2. But then I turn around and I got a master number of 11. So it still kind of balances out. And I do negotiate a lot unintentionally.
Where
So
do
I
you,
mean it. Go ahead.
but I was just gonna ask, do you know where the numerology comes from?
Ooh, that's a deep one. That's a deep back dive. I wanna say it's. I know it has something somewhere around Kemet area, or not even Kemet. It's more of a hermetic thing, I believe,
Okay. Like, would
from
that
at
be
least what I
the
what I read.
Trismegistus? When you say hermetic, is that what that means?
Uh, honestly, I don't know. I'm be honest, I don't know.
Okay, that's
I
okay.
like I say, I got bits and pieces of everything floating in my head, so
You know
sometimes I
what?
combine them. Like,
Same. Same. I feel like I go down so many spiritual rabbit holes on all of the TikToks and the YouTubes.
hmm
And yeah, so I end up with like bits and pieces, and some of them make sense together, and sometimes I'm thinking along the same lines you've been saying about, all of these things, all these ways of thinking about it kind of representing one thing. Like
hmm
everything, the way I've said that in the past is everything's a metaphor.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. So I feel like
I'm gonna tell you something.
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
It's something like I mess around. Like I've heard it before, but then I actually looked in the Bible for myself. It's a Bible verse that says where it's in red. You know how in the Bible they got it red. If it's in red, Jesus said it, right?
Right.
And it says, "Is it is it not written that ye are gods?" And I was like, I've never read that one before. So what? And now I got a King James 1611 version. Like it's an older version, and it's in there. So I'm like, hmm.
Hmm.
It kind of screwed me up a little bit.
Huh. That's interesting. I mean, in the Genesis story, the whole idea of the tree of knowledge and good and evil, isn't that the idea is that God didn't want humans to have that because then they would be like us, referring to the gods.
Um, according to Billy Carson, I think his name is Billy Carson. Yeah, he says that. Okay, so there's this deity named Thoth that he talks about a lot.
Thoth, Thoth,
Thoth, yes.
Thoth. Yeah, okay, I've heard of
Uh-huh.
that one.
And he's like from what is it? Uh
Egypt.
he's actually older than that. He's back to the
Sumeria?
I it's the he got some Sumerian tablets and is an emerald tablet. But he's what's the lost city of Atlantis? Atlantis. He's the Atlantean. So
Hmm.
all his knowledge comes
Oh,
from back then. And it's like he just brought it like he brought it to the Egyptians and taught them because he lived for like thousands of years some type of way. But it was like he never called himself a god. But then like he has the head of a ibis.
Yeah,
yeah, bird.
Atlas.
Yeah, it's the bird head one.
Yeah, he has a bird head. But like Egyptians had a lot of different type of birds. They had a head of a
Oh yeah.
hawk, which is like Osiris. I think it's
Okay,
Osiris.
Yeah,
that's
everything
good
had an animal
clarification.
representation.
Hmm?
Everything had an animal representation.
Yeah.
Sign of the
So
connection of nature.
Thoth was an ibis head. He had like ibis is supposed to be like for wisdom,
Do you think
and
the bird head
he,
signifies that they came out of the sky?
yeah,
Okay.
like God
Hey.
would have. But the thing about it is, these same images are on Mayan walls, Incan walls, all these tribes all across the different tribes. The same symbols that's in Egypt. Even like the symbols in like the mounds in America, those same
Yep.
symbols are there.
Yeah.
So
And it's not
this
the only
that's
time it happens, Raphael. Like you're onto something there because the birds happen kind of simultaneously around the globe. Snakes in symbology, it happens
yeah.
kind of simultaneously. So does dragons. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I, I did kind of a deep dive about a year ago into ancient cosmology and like being hit by meteorites and stuff in the past and floods and all of that jazz. And I don't know, to me, those animals make so much sense as like meteorites, right? Like dragons, fire, and like
Yeah.
snake, how a rapidly melting continental glacier would rivulet its way across the landscape like a snake. I don't know. These things just, it's like, I feel like all these symbols are the ways that humans tried to save history when
Yeah.
there wasn't other ways.
Yeah. I mean, like you could even go to Revelations and see that when John was telling about the thing he's seen in Revelations and he's seen the great dragon.
Yep.
And I mean he's seen the great dragon, then seen it chasing a woman, and the woman gave birth to a man child. So I mean
Ooh.
that can also, like, I watched something what the dude said. The dude was like, if you really look at it, like, okay, so the woman would be a Virgo.
Yeah.
So the zodiac signs are in the Bible too. And I
Oh,
literally watched this man
totally.
I watched him literally pick them out, and I'm like, hold on, wait, wait. It's too
Absolutely.
much. It's too much. You gotta slow down.
Yeah. There was a
I'm
short
like,
rabbit hole of
oh.
astrotheology for me as well. It's
Yes, I was
wild.
like, yeah, we really like screwing ourselves up on how we looking at things, because everybody, like I said, everybody's particularly put in a box. So now you blind to everything that's really on the outside. And that's why I'm like, yeah, I'd rather have the actual unadulterated truth. Whereas right now we got like all different types of truth put together to make one truth. So now you got to kind of like figure out what's what. Like
Hmm.
even with like hand signs, like the what is it, mudras, which connect to spirituality as well. Like
Oh,
you can do,
mudras. Yeah.
yeah, mudras. Like you can do certain hand signs to affect yourself differently too. So like, it's so much that connects to spirituality versus everything that religion tries to teach you.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, it's deeper than just the religion. And then, I mean, yes, I understand that there are evil spirits, and so you have to be careful when you say you're spiritual. I understand that part,
Mm.
but you can always tell what's what.
If you're connected into it, kind of is the idea,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, some people get caught up in the actual titles, and it's easier to learn things when you have an open mind to see deeper than what's in front of you. So I would assume, as far going back to the mountain thing, that would be the going up your side of the mountain. I would assume.
So do you feel like each person, for each person soul, it's okay for them to, on their slice of the mountain, to follow the path in whichever way makes the most sense to them? Or is the path only one single path that they were going to walk anyway? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
like, are we getting into free will? Maybe. Is that too far?
Yep.
Maybe.
Where's where we
Um,
going? Free will.
right. So like if there's a side of the mountain, it's all going to the same place. Is there like a way to fuck it up?
Maybe
Well, I
the
mean,
mountain
you
is a
got.
metaphor for, I'm sorry.
I'm about to say, like if you do like most Christians do and golf with the Bible say, if you read the Bible, at one point it says you got free will, but then the other part it says you're predestined.
Yes. I agree
So,
with that contradiction in there.
As do I.
so I mean, you got free will to walk your destiny.
Walk a predestined path. It's like raising
Yeah,
children. You know, they have free will to be who they're going to be. You can
right.
set them up to guide them, and whatever decision they make is going to lead them ultimately down a path. That's how I look at free will is, yeah, your will is free, but your destiny will be determined by the decisions you make with that free will as you move forward.
Hmm. Kind of like when you play certain video game, the open world video games. You can go wherever you want to, but you
Yeah,
still got to
right,
come back and finish
right.
this mission.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, and even back to the mountain thing, what if the mountain is a metaphor for enlightenment? At the base of the mountain where you don't know as much, you have to work your way up till you get closer to enlightenment, which is the ultimate goal of the top. And what if once you get to enlightenment, you've done your time here on this plane? Like, what if it's a trial run for getting to the next plane? And
So
once
like
you
With a
going
get
to
to
whole new
that,
set of
like,
challenges?
yeah, like once you conquer, it's the prerequisites for the astral plane is figuring out whatever you need to figure out here. So by the time you get to that point, you ascend, so to speak, to the next
that
plane
makes sense.
with that same knowledge or just the basic knowledge of everybody on that plane.
Right.
Like if we
So
go there where we're at now, you're not going to be able to survive because so many things are going to blow your whatever spirit's mind, existence, whatever is not all formed the way it needs to be for you to be there.
okay. So like going from the third dimension to the fifth dimension.
Exactly. You can't skip. You got to go through and figure out what you need to.
Right.
I would say just like
Yeah.
graduating high school before you go to college. You
Yeah.
got to have the basics before you can jump into the next big thing.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
One
But
way
can
to
I just got to be my concrete self for a minute? Because like I was fed a lot of fundamentalist stuff when I was young, but really like I was a super concrete kid and I'm still pretty concrete. Like I have to work really hard to feel woo. And so I have to like think about these questions and like all right, I love these ideas. These all sound really cool, but like there's not evidence of these things. Like where's the measurability and how do we like, you know, if it's just for me to like feel better about myself, I'm here for it. But it comes back to that thing that I got to at the end last time, I think, which is like, you know, if we believe these things, but they have effects on how we interact with the world, and that maybe isn't always good, then is it better to know true things? So this is why I'm like, okay, I love these ideas. How do I know for sure I'm reincarnated or I'm going to make it to another plane or there's a good reason to do X, Y, and Z in this world? And thanks for letting me ramble at you. And now I'd love to hear what you have
So
to say.
so that would be your red pill, blue pill moment.
My what? Oh,
Your red pill, blue pill moment. You
What?
can
yeah,
take the
that's
blue
my
pill and stay where you at in the little fairy
Is
tale
this a
world.
Matrix thing?
The
Yep.
ish. It's
Yeah,
you
ish,
want to stay
ish.
comfortable in the simulation, or do you want to understand the truth?
I agree with that.
Well, and to add
I
another
want it
layer.
as raw as it gets. Strip it all the way down.
To what end
Oh,
though? Like what
right.
happens when you figure it all out? Then what?
Then you do
No,
better.
Do
the
you?
thing is I know I'm
Ow.
never gonna figure it out. And that's the fun part. I just want to like keep digging and keep digging, right? Like I don't want to just stop at elements. I want to know about atoms. I don't want to just stop at atoms. I want to know about subatomic particles. I don't just want
Look,
to
you
know
trying
about
to
that. I want to know about fucking quarks and neutrinos. Like I want to go all the way down.
That's
But
you
I know
trying to
it'll
basically
be
never stop.
that's how every
you
Marvel
trying to
villain that's a scientist starts out.
right. That's
I
how
think
we
that's
got
what I
what's
did.
his name? Modot.
MODOK, I would. That's how they got. I cannot remember Jonathan Major's character. I can't remember right now.
Kang.
Yeah,
Kang the
Kang.
Conqueror.
Kang was a scientist who just kept learning and learning to the point to where he found out about the multiverse and started interacting with himself and learning more. But then things went sideways and they started conquering dimensions, so it went
Mm-hmm.
sideways. But
Okay,
Bad.
back to
that's
back to the
You'll be
actual topic
surprised how
of the
much
movie.
truth is in these movies.
I mean, it plays with a lot of fun concepts, but here's another one. Do you think you would be at the same place of thirst for knowledge had you not started where you started?
no, I don't think so. In fact, my mother takes credit for me being how I am now.
So maybe that's where you're supposed to be then. Exactly where
Yeah,
you are,
Mm-hmm.
exactly where you're supposed to be.
yeah, and that's fine. But I'm questioning the notion of like faith or belief or religion or spirituality or any of those amorphous words. You know, like what do we need out of it? And like, is that okay to have which color pill? You know, like how I don't know if I'm getting at what I mean here, but you know, it's like, do we want to rip that off and can we live in real like full like just physical reality with no like
I think yes and no.
anybody catching anything that's
I'm
trying to come out
100%
of my
catching
brain?
what you're saying.
Wait,
So you were
Okay.
saying, is it okay to rip the Band-Aid off? And essentially you were asking the question is it okay to be all right with just the I want to say I don't want to say blind faith, but it's essentially the happy with what you have or thirst for more and understanding when you should push when to open that door for other people like when me and Raphael have conversations about like back home or like my other brothers, we talk about like I knew I was a big fish in a small pond, so I had to leave. I knew that at a very early age, but there are other people who were completely happy with what they had, and that's fine. They didn't need more. They were okay with what they got, and they could live a completely happy life doing a quote unquote menial job, coming home to their family, raising their kids, riding four wheelers, fishing. That bubble of their life is where bliss was. And that's all they needed. I needed more. And I'm using that as a comparison backdrop to flipping it over to the conversation of faith versus, well I don't say faith, acceptance of your place as where you're at versus needing validation of the entire infrastructure of it all, if that makes sense. Like a deeper meaning in your place versus just saying this is my place and I'm okay in it. Is that
Okay.
kind of where you're going with it? Or a little more complex?
Maybe a little less focus on just like my own personal connection to the spirituality piece. Like I think I'm trying okay. I had a thought that might like show the weird middle ground I find my thoughts in. And the result that I think could be beneficial with these thoughts is that, like, that there's not, or that the line between looking at religion, mythology, etc., and like a hard line against any of that stuff, that blurs a little bit, because I think there's reason for it to blur. Okay, so Raphael, you talked about Thoth and Atlantis, and in that, like the ancient Earth history, you know, like all the planetary changes and stuff, and all of that. There is the Younger Dryas is a time frame from like 11,600 years ago to 12,800 years ago, something like that. So solidly before we have believed that there was any civilizations of humans. However, during that time frame, we now know or can show, like geology type stuff, that the sea levels rose about 400 feet during that time, because there was likely some sort of like cosmic impact that melted ice sheets and things like that. And so this ties in then with what is our own, like, only and earliest documentation of Atlantis, which was something I believe written by Plato, which I know Plato like studied in Africa for 20 years or something too at some point.
Too, yeah.
So I don't entirely know how that timeline overlaps, but it was like he had this dictated to him that was like a story that had been passed down of an ancient time when like an advanced civilization that was like really good on the water, like that they were very advanced in their water travel and things, and where they're kind of thinking it was located would have been what is now the mouth of the Mediterranean, because then there's like actual studies of geology stuff to show that the land there could have subsided enough to completely take out what would have been a civilization above the water in that point of the Atlantic. So, and that's like as close as I have found to like a meld of the scientific with what has essentially become mythologized. And I have found it to be so interesting. And so it actually, I think, has opened me up to more like of the ancient religious texts and things, to recognize that there's probably some really interesting things about the planet and things that were going on that are recorded within those stories, no matter if they've been mythologized. Like, it's probably in there. And I think that there could be a cool thing of like scientifically stuff we discover, and like being able to see the ancient wisdom of the people that wrote these things way back when.
So you said Younger Dryas. So that's like the flood, right? Or is it like a mudslide or something like that?
Yeah, there was a lot of flooding involved, because the idea was that ice sheets, like continental size ice sheets, like there's 2 on North America, and that there would have been a hit of meteorites, like maybe Earth went through a period of higher meteoric activity, and so the impact then would have quickly melted, you know, very large regional or continental size glaciers,
Right.
and changed Earth's climate, which could so easily make sense as coming down in stories that people had made up to remember this huge thing that like devastated populations and wiped out whole civilizations and stuff.
That brings two things to mind for me. One, wouldn't it be interesting if that story crossed with the Noah's Ark story as to why the waters rose the way they did? And this cosmic being was like, "Hey, bro, you should probably build a boat." uh, I mean,
It's
but
gonna get
yeah,
crazy.
I dig it. That curiosity. I'm hoping I'm in a similar place of just liking to know these things. But the other thing I thought about is a show I'm watching right now called Dr. Stone, and it basically does that in the storytelling of all of a sudden everybody on Earth is petrified, but this kid who's super duper smart comes out of his petrification for whatever reason, but he's been conscious this entire time, just counting. So he knows how long he's been petrified and just kind of doing whatever to keep his mind going. So he starts trying to slowly rebuild civilization. And he's going through and, this kingdom of science doing all these things. But turns out his dad was an astronaut and they saw something was going wrong on Earth. So they came back down to Soyuz and started another civilization once they got here and figured out what was going on. A way that they were able to keep knowledge of what needed to be going because his astronaut, you gotta be smart, was stories. And they had these stories called the 100 Tales. And they were passing on information for generations through these 100 tales. So somebody who came out of petrification could use these things. And he named like children of the villagers, different elements and rocks and things. And it was all clues that helped him figure out where his dad left something that's going to help him figure out how to solve this. But his dad didn't know it'd be him. He's probably hopeful, but he didn't. But now this kid's like, oh yeah, I'm super smart. I'm doing all these things with science to rebuild civilization from the start to where we've already gone through and get it back. And it's a great show. Good for kids.
I
Wow.
far as you saying, I feel like there's a piece of everybody that wants to go beyond their barriers, but they're afraid. But then you have some that just don't give a flying fuck and they just say, fuck it, let's go. It's more people that want to know. They'll get right to the barrier and stop because they get scared that they're gonna let their family down or they're gonna go against what they were taught and stuff like that. So it's a little push and play with that part as far as like trying to know things because everybody has that feeling like it's got to be more. There's more to this than this right here. I guarantee everybody hit that moment where it's got to be more to life than this. I don't care where you at. You working in high school or wherever. You had a moment where you sat down to yourself and said, "There's really got to be more to life than me going to work every day, paying bills paying all these bills. I'm always broke. Stuff like that. It's got to be. It's deeper than this. It's got to be deeper. And some people step out on it, and some people don't.
I feel like that's part of the
So,
scam is to keep us thinking that, to keep us in line.
mm-hmm.
So I understand why you believe that. I think the reason why a lot of people believe that, why, like, including me, honestly, I think it's conditioning to think that, like, you do what you got to do and then you move on to something better. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what keeps us in line.
Yeah. And
I
like I
mean, it
said, you got some
works if
people.
you think about it. Like,
To what end, though?
Yeah.
what?
I said, to what end do you think?
What are you talking about?
Like, what do you think their end goal of keeping us in line? And what do you think their end goal is?
I told you, I think that America's a big factory. I
Not
think,
just America, where people.
okay, the
culture
developed
will be.
world. The developed world is we're supposed to stay in line, follow the leader, believe what we're told to believe.
That's possible. I
It's
mean,
true.
all these underground caves that have like literal cities in them. So I mean, yeah, I can see it.
Right?
I can see it. Like we actually deliver to an underground facility in a cave.
Oh, you're talking. Okay. I was thinking about something else.
I thought you
Oh
were talking
no,
about
like
the Chinatowns from back in the like a really long time ago when Chinese people couldn't have like really be on the surface a lot, so they built underground cave,
oh,
like
I'm saying,
underground
that's what I'm
cities.
saying. I'm saying like there's literal underground cities that we deliver loads to.
I can imagine for geothermal research, you gotta go below the surface.
So I mean, and you
Turkey.
got you.
Sorry, I was gonna say Turkey. The country, Turkey.
Oh, the country. Okay, I
Yeah,
definitely thought we switched topics, and I
yeah, sorry. So the topic of Thanksgiving. Just kidding. Okay. Yeah, so in Turkey, our underground is an underground facility. There's it's like a whole, I think that they say like 20 or 30,000 people could have been under there when it was fully in use, and it's like it's vented out to the surface everywhere. It's been excavated. Well, I don't know if all of it's been excavated, but I tell you, Turkey was the site of some civilization way back when, maybe even pre what we know about now, or like we'd say that Sumeria, Mesopotamia, I think we say was kind of the first civilization, but this stuff is looking like it's thousands upon thousands of years older than that. Where there's Göbekli Tepe is this temple looking space that's been uncovered, that they think it's, I think, 10,000 years old, so probably just after that Younger Dryas, like climate shifting would have happened, where the stonework is so much better than anything done, for thousands of years after that. And this site was deliberately buried, and there's no evidence of people having lived there. And there's all these animals carved onto the stonework and stuff.
Wow.
Sounds
Fascinating stuff.
You ever seen Futurama?
No.
Okay, so it's a cartoon, right? Futurama, and it has a thing on there where the little guy named Fry, right? They somehow they wound up underground in New York, and it was like old New York, and they still had trains and everything from then. I was like, okay.
It plays on exactly what we're talking about, the passage of time and all these natural things that happen. So he's basically cryogenically frozen for thousands of years. And as he's frozen, you can see all the events of the world falling apart, rebuilding, falling apart, rebuilding, to where the old New York that he came up in is essentially underground now, and everything is higher up. And
Yeah, cool.
It's from the creators of The Simpsons.
That's awesome. I mean, every civilization is built with the rubble of the last one.
It is. Which, to what you're saying, is also quite interesting about, the knowledge that we're finding and have now. Imagine how much more there is that got destroyed in the process of getting to here. I mean, we know about some of it. Like Timbuktu was a pillar of knowledge before it was destroyed. But, they had to pull from other places as well. So some of that is knowledge that was deliberately burned for a purpose of domination and war. And some of it is just not knowing how to interact with it. It's like the pyramids, for example. You had these British people who were trying to figure out, what do these things say? What do they really mean? Meanwhile, the people who lived near them knew the language of the pyramids, Meta Nature. There are people who can teach you how to read the pyramids yourself now. And then you'll go with these tour guides who have no idea, but they think they know. They'll be like, oh, it means this, this, and this. And you just laugh and be like, you idiot. That is not what that means. And just knowing the language.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the Mississippi mounds that they busted open and stuff like that to find like different types of technology that we had back then. And like all the little, like not just Mississippi, Louisiana. So there's mounds all over doggone America full of like old ancient stuff that we had. way
Yeah.
back then that some of they didn't destroy because they probably don't want you to know it actually is.
Well, and in North America, during the time of, pyramids inexplicably going up all over the planet, in a relatively similar window, North America didn't have much on it because I think that's when it had like been an ocean and then it got, flooded off with the
Well,
glaciers. And so like they
they
had dirt. They built everything out of dirt. So it wasn't going to survive the same way other stuff did.
they found pyramids in the Grand Canyon
Really? I haven't seen that.
from what I've seen.
It would
They
not
found
surprise
pyramids
me.
in the Grand Canyon. So I don't know.
I know, right? I mean, I think we're talking about patterns. I mean, I find
Mhm.
it super interesting to follow down these different architectures, different belief systems, different
And they all connect.
geological things, and see how they connect. It's
Yeah, so
cool.
many
They
more
all
pieces
connect.
tied together than we realize. I just thought about it.
Mhm.
When I was in Israel, going to the Dead Sea, that whole area of the Dead Sea is thousands of feet below sea level. And there's a
Kind of like
sign that
New
says
Orleans.
you're this many thousand feet below sea level. And it's like, huh, interesting.
How does there
It's
get
kind of
to
like
be a spot of land that deep that's like got enough rock around it to keep it that way?
That
Weird,
is a
huh?
curious question.
Yeah.
Nephilim, I guess.
And there's places in like when I was in Oklahoma,
Did
uh,
you just say the Nephilim?
Yeah,
the Nephilim.
Please. Yes, you just said the Nephilim.
What the
I
hell is a
did.
Nephilim?
Basically a giant.
Oh, cool. I
That's
mean,
just the side. That's the fancy word for giant.
what if that's where Paul Bunyan came
Ooh.
from?
Paul Bunyan, the great North American Nephilim.
But for real, like for real, think about it. Like a lot of the story they tell us in America about giants are basically kid stories. Paul Bunyan being one of them. Him and the great blue ox.
Yep.
So I mean, it may be some truth to those. We don't know.
Is Babe just a demoted minotaur after all?
Possible. It's possible.
Anything to
So
do
I
with
don't.
the sign of Taurus going on there, maybe? I don't know.
Sprinkle that in
Right.
there.
Right.
Yep.
Because a blue ox is quite unusual.
Right. I've never seen one.
Well, and in the
And
Bible, God was really mad when the Israelites were worshiping a golden calf,
Yeah, he
yeah.
was.
which is another Taurus reference, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, there's also the theory that the Bible was co-opted from Egyptian mythology, and the
Yep.
way that those
Uh,
things line up, th- it's scary to say, okay, well, this was a whole control thing to your point of co-opt this story into something else so that they can find it's essentially a backwards of not the Orisha, the Santeria, whereas hiding it under the main ones, using the main ones to hide ill intent under it and empower the wrong people.
Mm.
kind of like I'm not sure how true it is, but supposedly like the days of the week are named after Norse gods.
It is. I think that's like a fact, isn't it? Like,
Mhm.
I don't remember them all, but
I mean, I know the planets are named after Roman gods.
I know Wednesday is Odin.
I think Thursday
Or
is Thor.
Or was it Tuesday?
Thor.
It's not,
Tuesday is Tyr.
yeah. Huh.
Wednesday or
Yeah, Wednesday is
Tuesday
Odin. No, that one from American
Odin.
Gods. 'Cause I didn't know that one until
Yeah.
I was reading it. Neil Gaiman is. We should be like, if you ever get a chance to talk to somebody who's really on the level, Neil Gaiman is that dude. Like when he wrote American Gods, he was so deep in it that what he came out with on the books, like the show was good, but it wasn't as good as the books. Those books will really take you some places, and like he dips into a lot of mythologies, a lot of just like what if, and kind of dipped into cultures and all these different representations, and everybody kind of gets their own piece of it to tell this overarching story. That is an amazing story.
Cool. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. I mean, people, if like, the thing about it, like, people really sit down and like look at everything, you will see just how much spirituality is involved in everything. Like, yeah.
Sure.
Like, even like, Percy Jackson, right? And the lightning thief, whatever. And he was like, "Oh, I got dyslexia," but he reads stuff and it turns out to be what it really is.
Oh, I didn't know there was a dyslexia aspect to that.
Yeah, that's how they played it off in the beginning, was that he was dyslexic, but it really was because he was part God.
Yeah.
Everything was different for him, and then once he stepped into it, then it was a whole different deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah.
very well done on them, and playing that into it,
Yeah.
which would make
That was
sense logic wise. Like, oh, he can see things that nobody else can see, and all the dyslexic kids are like, oh my God,
good.
which is fair. That's fine.
Yeah. It's real crazy. Like, the ideas that people throw into these movies is crazy.
The imagination is a fun place to play.
There's like a theory or a story or something out there like that out there, that all Disney movies represent a mental health disorder or mental health issue. So I think Beauty and the Beast is Stockholm syndrome.
Yep.
What's not Aurora, Rapunzel is agoraphobic or something like that. Like, like they all like are playing on a thing.
So
Yeah.
what's
I
Princess and
know Winnie the
I
Pooh
don't
is
remember.
schizophrenic.
which
Oh,
one?
damn.
Winnie the Pooh?
Really? I
Christopher
thought that would
Robin
have been well, that's not Disney though. Well, I mean, it's
Christopher
co-opted, but
Robin
through
is
the Looking
yeah, he's
Glass,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
Alice in
like Christopher
Wonderland.
Robin is schizophrenic. That's why he got like the animals talking, and they all show like different emotions that he's going through at the same time.
Oh yeah, I can see that. So what is
Whoa.
Alice in Wonderland then?
Damn.
I want to know what
Let's
Princess and the
unpack some
Frog.
shit.
I mean, if
And that was like my favorite cartoon
and then now they're like, we're
until
not
you
even
found
gonna
out the
hide it
backstory.
anymore. We're just gonna put it in front of you. That's how you get Inside Out. And
Yep.
Soul.
I thought that those two, like
Those
Inside
are
Out, was
some
really
amazing
good.
movies. And Coco is like, why hide? If there's truth to that, then they basically just said, fuck it, let's stop hiding it and put it out there where everybody can see it. Because Inside Out was such a huge movie for so many people.
Oh yeah,
And I
Yeah.
think it's definitely for the younger generation who were having more difficulty getting associated with certain feelings and understandings. But they're also not being fully socialized the way we were. So they have to find new ways of being able to tap into that. I mean, we all like, I think to some level had that thought process of like, oh yeah, we have all these different versions of ourselves in our head. And like, I used to have a joke where it's like, yeah, I'm sitting down and talking with all the other me's and figuring out which one's taking over today. I thought everybody did that to some level, which sounds completely fucking crazy, but I think
they do.
everybody does to some level.
They
Like,
do.
we all have different facets of our personality that, depending on the situation, we are going to show. And that's just a reality of people, I think.
You know,
It's
though. Oh,
it's
God.
not considered. It's not considered crazy until you start naming them.
Yeah. Then it's got a disorder name.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, I don't know that. Well, for sure, everyone is not so in touch with it to be able to like have that
Express
kind
it
of
in
like
words, yeah.
perspective on it, right? And there's so many things when you're heavily socialized, especially unhealthily so, where there's parts of you that aren't supposed to exist, because if they exist, you're bad. And so that's the parts that you put in your shadow, right? That you need to hide and deny that are a part of you, but they are a part of you, and like they want to be seen too. And so that's when they come out and do shitty shit that you wish you weren't doing. And you're like, why did that just come out of my mouth? Oh my God, why did I do that thing? Why couldn't I do that? Right. And, well, I don't know what's happening. But I feel like that is, you know, those parts that you, that's cool. Like you're saying, you have an understanding of those different parts of you and who's going to be in charge today. But I think when we aren't given tools to like know those parts of us, and then we're just told that parts of us are bad, it results in really, really bad things for us and those we interact with. So I don't know if we can like make a spirituality out of that, but like connecting people to all the parts of themselves and accepting themselves and everything. And am I just sounding like a rambling stoner at this point? Maybe,
Not at
but
all. I mean,
you know,
spirituality in itself is a whole person. You have multiple facets of your spirit, good, bad, and in between. I mean, if you look at most of the mythologies, that is how nature is viewed, as all these different facets of a whole. And being able to express the different emotions and pieces of yourself in those manners, it kind of lines up in the same way, because it's like, if you look at like, you know, Thoth and Anubis, they both have animal heads, but they have human bodies. They're pieces of the whole.
That's interesting. Well, yeah. I mean, we are all pieces of the whole, whatever it is that keeps rolling through and creating more people, this life thing, this
Another
human
thing
species
that
thing.
another thing that Billy Carson says is that, like, okay, so we're supposed to be born in like an incubator. We're supposed to be so the thing is Genesis. So the book of Genesis is like Gen Ice.
Oh, friend, you're breaking up a bit.
But he goes on to say that the book of Genesis is basically named after Isis. And it's like Generation Isis, what he calls it.
Genesis says Generation Isis.
Yes. It's the way he broke it down.
Dang.
Because she was the one. She took like they were trying the gods or something like that. They were trying to make slaves basically, and they wanted to reproduce them, but they were trying to kind of modification, gender modification to make them, or gene modification. They would make them, but they couldn't make babies. So kind of like we're taking a lion and a tiger, putting them together. You get an animal, but the animal can't reproduce. So what happened was Isis took the creation, put this herself and birthed it. And now that it's supposed to be that's how we are able to reproduce. According to him.
I got Generation Isis.
Yeah, that's about all I call it. That, and lion and tigers not having babies, but Isis using herself as an incubator for something.
Do we want to wrap up or continue?
I thought we were just starting.
We'll wrap it up talking about appropriation. You're funny.
Wait, what did you just say?
Right,
Sure.
so can you hear me now?
I was making
Yep.
a joke. She was saying, should we wrap it up? I was like, haha, wrap it up when we're talking about procreation.
Oh.
Would that be a dad joke?
Oh, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. It's a dad of teenager joke for sure.
Our multiple personalities or our multiple facets come back to the whole collective consciousness thing of like, oh, well, there's a little bit of Joan of Arc in me because she's also a Libra, and that's one piece that wants to be out front today. And on the other side is Napoleon Bonaparte, and that's why I'm an asshole on Tuesdays. Oh,
I don't
man.
know. I guess I usually feel a little more Napoleon Dynamite than Napoleon Bonaparte myself.
That is
But
the way to feel. I think everybody feel more Napoleon Dynamite than Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was a dick.
this is gonna be our never-ending segment or a never-ending thing because literally I in the notes on the pages I have here, there are 15 rabbit holes we could go down.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because I looked up Gnostic Christianity, not knowing what you meant, Raphael. And whoa, that was an interesting rabbit hole. So, you never know. So the basis of it is that it was like this Marcionite group in the 2nd century came up with this idea. Was like when Christianity was still kind of like the Wild West, and all these ideas of who Jesus was and everything, like deity or not, and everything was still flying around. People were fighting about it, and so the not Christian Gnosticism idea is that the God of the Old Testament is actually a separate God. Like it's I think it's the demiurge. So it's like the great supreme being, like that this demiurge Yahweh got a little smart with himself and decided he was going to create all of us, but he's kind of a dummy, and so he didn't do a very good job, and it's kind of shitty for us here. And so the supreme being sent Jesus, who was supposed to be the redeemer and set things right. And so that was what I found based on Gnostic Christianity. And now I'm guessing that's not what you meant.
Agnostic, yeah.
Yeah, Gnostic, without the
Gnostic
A.
is,
Gnostic.
yeah.
Gnostic.
Yeah, like they you gotta think about it, like what was it? It's so many different things that I've looked at. Like if I go off of one particular person, like the same person that talked about Thoth, right? He was like, the reason you say amen, amen is because this God named uh he wanted everybody to say
Darn it, we lost you a little bit there again.
the thing I have found out about me is when I start telling the truth about certain things, everything around me go fucking haywire.
Really?
Really.
Yeah.
So when we come back to the third Zoom, you can start telling us the truth about Generation ISIS.
Yeah, I try.
I don't want things to go haywire for you, though. What do you mean by that?
Like
Like,
it starts having signal issues when it was fine
yes.
the whole time. What was it that we were talking about that happened? That happened
Yeah,
like 2 of our podcasts.
so
And
we was talking about Kanye all of a sudden.
No.
oh yeah.
And if it froze, like our Zoom froze.
Yeah, I think the ancestors was looking out then because it was like too close. Y'all got the same last name. Cut it out.
Right.
It's less than a minute.
I was just like, the government's listening. They don't want us saying these true things. Okay.
I guess y'all ready for me to start the Gen ISIS story over again?
Yeah, Gen ISIS. I'm so pumped for this.
Okay, so according to Billy Carson, right? He says that there were these gods. I can't think it's like twin gods or something like that. They were trying to make like slaves, but like every time they made slaves, the slaves couldn't reproduce. So like the whole way he used it was like you take a lion and a tiger, like you get a liger, but the liger can't make more ligers.
Right.
So that's what happened when they tried to make these gene modified humans, and then they could make them, but they had to keep remaking them, and it was taking up a lot of time and stuff like that. So what happened was Isis came along, and she was like, let me carry one. and see what they was trying to see what happened then. So they created one, they gene modified it, placed it inside of her. She carried the term and birthed it, and thus you got humans that could reprocreate. And that's how they were able to supposedly form us as humans, according to his story.
Dang. I mean, there is no small overlap in the story you just told with the ancient aliens folks and some of those thoughts about us being on Earth to like mine the gold so that the aliens wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crazy part about it is he loves ancient aliens. Like he literally met the big guy that runs the shit.
Well, that makes a lot of
So
sense.
The Greek guy, Stephanopoulos, whatever his name is. I
yeah, he met him.
never
He
say
actually
it,
met him.
but
The funny name guy.
yeah, the
So I'm
longest
like,
Greek name
okay.
ever.
When he said that, I was like, okay. I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt, but okay.
Yeah, definitely pick out of that what you need.
How do we decide what we take with a grain of salt and what we pick out of and what we swallow whole cloth? How do we decide, y'all?
Whatever resonates, I guess.
Yeah, that
Like
one
some
didn't kind
things
of
just
that.
feel right in your spirit when you hear them, and other things are like, that shit is stupid.
Right.
I mean, am I wrong? Like some stuff you hear is like, okay, you can get out of my face with that because you full of shit. But it sounds good. It sounds a
And
good
then
story.
So
I
are we
read so many
making
freaking books.
Oh.
Go ahead.
are we making that decision based on, I mean, it can only be based on all the information we've received previously, right? Whether we go, yes, that makes sense, or take your bullshit out of my face.
Well, no, I mean like
Uh,
more on the spiritual level of like when something is appetizing to your spirit, you feel it. It's like hearing
mhm.
music that taps in and you like feel like all the cells in your body just kind of reverberating when that music is being played. Some things when you hear them are just like that, but I think that also takes a level of being tapped in. It's like some people when they smoke, you feel like your body's vibrating when you didn't feel that before. Who's to say that's not you because you consuming a part of the earth, tapping into the frequency of the earth, and all of your
Bruh.
extra worldly thoughts come while you're lifted and you're vibrating, and you got all this extra information coming in now that you didn't have before because now you got your antennas up and you're like, whoa, what's going on in this station? What's on that station? What about this?
Bruh.
Now, these things don't necessarily make sense, or you start
Oh
questioning
man.
things that you probably wouldn't question normally just because at that state, what if is a legitimate argument.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could
I
also
can
Yeah.
be
get behind a canna church. Hell yes.
A can of
there,
church. A
there's a
what?
Yeah,
church that is
I say
growing
that
in
up right now.
cannabis.
Want to join?
Shit, yeah, yeah.
Man, I tell you, like the first time I actually smoked, I felt the nerves in my fingers. I was like, hold on, wait, what is going on here? I was hearing people's thoughts and everything. I was like, okay, it's a little too much for me,
And to
but I
fully
kept doing it.
pull it into spirituality. If you want to put it into the Bible, you could say, okay, well, what if the apple and the Adam and Eve apple story is akin to people consuming cannabis, where before you consume cannabis, you don't think about these things. You're just in your body, whether you're enjoying it or not. That's just where you are in that state of consciousness. But once you partake of the apple, then it's like, oh my God, I'm naked. You start questioning things that you wouldn't have questioned before.
My God, I'm
I'm a, I'm
naked.
a,
Yes.
I'm gonna say the thing with the Adam and Eve story that kind of frustrates me is when people be like, um, Adam and Eve ate an apple, and it clearly doesn't say apple. But the thing that people don't realize is when they did come conscious, he made them tunics of skin.
I thought they sewed fig leaves together, or is that just
No,
the
it was
tradition?
the Bible literally says tunics of skin.
Believed you.
I always worried about that whole fig leaf thing because I was like, first of all, I ain't never seen no fig leaf that damn big. Come on now.
That's like well, they probably did fig leaves, but God gave them tunics of skin to clothe them. So and that says that you went from being spiritual to human. You went from being a spiritual
Oh,
being to a human being.
Yeah.
ooh.
So that right
Like
there, and
not
except
like
you
a
go back,
loincloth. You mean like
yeah, like
the
a
skin.
your whole from head to toe. You
Yeah.
had he put, and that's where the separation came because now you got a flesh on you. So then it would go to born in iniquity, shaped it. Was it born in sin, shaped in iniquity? I'm just saying because that you got to think about the separation. If you a spirit and God's a spirit, and He was in the garden with you, y'all spirits, y'all connected. But once you put on that skin, there's the disconnect, in my opinion.
Okay. Can I spiral in a slightly weird place that makes me want to go?
Do
Go
it.
for it.
All right. So we were talking about having skin and separation and stuff. All right. So all of our senses are a spectrum, right? Like
Mhm.
we know that like we see this much of the light spectrum, right? We know what we can see with our bare eyes. And then we have some tools where we can see some ultraviolet, we can see some infrared, but we know it like goes on beyond that, right? But like we can only see it in this window. That's what our organs have attuned to. We also have that with our hearing. And as we get older, my kids thought it was fucking funny when there was a brain show where it was like sounds that older people can't hear, but younger kids can, and they could still hear it, and I couldn't. And I thought that was awesome. So, right. So like if sound tones are also within this like spectrum of frequencies, right, that humans are attuned to, and it's a little different for every human. So I was like, all right, so that's two of our senses. And I won't go through all of them, but I thought, what about our sense of touch? Is that a thing where here on the surface of my hand, I detect matter, I detect touch. So what if I'm still out here, like I still exist right here in space and like right here in space, and like could keep extending that, but my spectrum for understanding my materialness is this big and it ends here.
That's very feasible.
Could that be the vibrations we feel whenever we are lifted?
For me,
Yeah.
it's the energies that I see. I literally see energies in different colors for different people. Not everyone, but I see the colors, and I see dark or bright sometimes. I definitely see ill intent, like that type of that
Ooh.
frequency or whatever of energy.
yeah.
I see that a lot, like in most people probably.
And those I feel like come to me more in physical sensations in my body.
Mm-hmm.
Like a very unwell man, unhoused man, who goes off his meds frequently near our local grocery store, was like following along in the street where my daughter and I were walking on the sidewalk today. And my kiddo was freaked out by this. But for whatever reason, I was like, yeah, he's not doing well, poor guy. But like, I just knew he wasn't going to hurt us or anything. So anyway, it was a thing where today I realized, oh, I didn't have that feeling in my body where I was like, this isn't an okay situation. So
I'm gonna throw something out there. Think about the strength you gain, or a mother gains, or a father for that matter, gains when their child is trapped under a car and they able to pick this car up. Where does that come from? They say adrenaline, but that's not adrenaline. That's like God's strength that you see in Hercules or something like that. Know what I'm saying? Like I heard a story. Literally heard stories of me and Tony's granddad, where he would literally pick up the back of he picked up a back of a truck while I was running, trying to get away. He picked this joke up off the ground, and it just spit. I was like, okay, because I mean I met him, but I was like 2, 3 when he died. So
Yeah.
so I'm like, there is some type of God power in us, but sometimes it takes us actually literally sitting, meditating, and focusing to even tap into that strength.
Well, and it's also for some, I don't know if it's religion or how you would call it, but the whole thing about the chakra networks and the gates that go along with them, and releasing certain gates opens up more access to certain things.
Hmm. What is it? 12 chakras or 13?
I don't remember.
I
I
thought there were
learned about
6.
that mostly, but hold on, let me see.
Is crown?
I think it's 7 actually.
Is there
Okay.
so one
Well, you got your
mouth,
hands too.
throat chakra, right? How many is it, Patty? Do you know?
How about we
Heart.
just
Because I only say that because I heard somewhere that the chakras align with the 12 gates to the city.
I thought it was the crown, the throat, the
It's 7.
sacral.
Crown
7.
chakra, third eye chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra, solar plexus chakra, sacral chakra, and the root chakra.
Yeah.
There's different systems too that have like a
Yeah.
lot of different chakras, like hundreds of them all over the
Yeah.
body.
Like it's like they all over the body.
Like pressure points.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they call them nadis.
Yeah, I
Nadis.
think so.
Noddies. Yeah.
Interesting.
Hmm.
You can look at a tree line, right, and see a whole frequency in the tree line.
Ooh. Aurelia and I have a friend that once took a picture of birds on telephone lines and
Mhm.
then played it on her piano like they were notes.
Yeah. So that would dictate that everything is
Cool.
frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah, trees communicate. There's
Yep.
been theories that because of the way the roots tie into the earth, that they're talking to each other.
Well, there's also like stuff that they send through air too. They or certain frequencies they like scream in a way that we definitely can't hear. But whenever there's like some sort of predator, like when humans are stomping around grass, then they start screaming at each other to like build up your defenses, that kind of thing.
That goes into the Chronicle of Narnia, don't it?
I think probably the other way. The Chronicle of Narnia probably plays off of that, but I'm a
No,
science
I'm
person.
saying I'm just saying, like, the way I see it, like I look at movies as a way of people that trying to tell you certain
Yeah,
things without telling you certain things.
yeah.
So if they like what is it? It's Spiderwick Chronicle, the Chronicle of Spiderwick or something like that. That's another one where you got like fairies in it, you got the trees in it, you got a fucking ogre in it. That's in all this in the woods, and and like I literally watched like the whole movie, right? And then like the director's cut and stuff like that, he was like, "This is actually a true story." I like I've literally seen my grandma post salt around her house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's things like that that I'm like, okay, my grandma knows something that she ain't telling me, because I've never seen anybody post salts on the windowsills and the door until I seen the Chronicles of Spiderwick, and then my grandma did it, and I was like, hold on, wait, that's too connected because they
Yeah,
did the
that
same thing
has
she
roots,
did.
like deep roots. Yeah, that definitely has like in a lot of spiritual, like, yeah.
I think I've seen my grandpa do it actually, but I think he told us it was for like snakes or something. It might not have been salt though. It was something that
Salt purifies. We also one of the things in my culture we do put a cup of or a bowl of water under the bed, supposed to help with nightmares and stuff. Like there's a lot of things like that that yeah has like deep origins and like cultures and stuff.
oh, you
Yeah, but
probably
like,
told us
eh,
enough about the hair thing.
The hair thing. What the hair? What about what? We're talking
people
We were
touching your
talking
hair.
about letting random people in your hair. in African American culture, or African culture, I should say, because it's more the fear of the wrong people in your hair.
I mean, I've always believed that, like people that will touch your hair that are jealous can make your hair fall out and stuff like that. Like that type of energy
Yeah.
can just like mess with stuff. I don't like it. Also, like I don't know where people's hands have been. Like
That's
I
fair.
don't know. I feel like people have in historically have been too comfortable putting their hands on other people. Like there should be consent to touch any part of anybody and their property. Like no.
I mean, like I seen a little.
You know your
look,
hand was hot and you just put it on me like that, and it's hot in here. He
I seen a little
has
girl,
like
right?
a crazy body temperature that's not normal. Go ahead, Raphael. I'm sorry.
I do it too. You talking about that body heat that's so hot it feels like a furnace?
Why do you two feel like radiators? That can't be normal. Like, oh
And
my
it's not
God.
normal.
Like, I really, unless I'm
That,
camping,
that's
you can't be too
that's
close
yeah.
to me at night. I don't know, maybe. I'm not a big fan. Well, unless we're camping. Anyway, go ahead, Raphael. You started to say something.
No, I was gonna say it was a little girl I seen, like this little boy, they were in the karate class, right? Or karate tournament. The little boy decided it was funny to touch her hair, right? Yeah, he regretted that afterwards. Cause she did an armbar on him, but the way she did the armbar was he was standing up when she did it and she flipped him over on the ground. I was like, oh shit.
Mm,
So yeah, we don't play about that hair thing.
yeah.
Like I let my sister do it. Like the lady that started my locks for me, I let her do it. But then after that, I was like, nope.
But it should be
So I
consent. Like, those
started.
people have your consent to put their hands on your hair. If I go to salon, I'll give them consent too. But I feel like random people, especially whenever we say stop, like it shouldn't even be something I need to convince somebody. Like my kids used to always, because she always had her hair in cornrows, they were always like touching it and stuff, and she would tell them to stop. And Antonio ended up having to go to school to talk to the teacher because it was like they just wouldn't stop.
Oh,
Then it get sucked in the mouth.
Well,
And
no, the
wondering
teacher
why.
ended up like talking about consent and everything, and it ended up working out. But like that it took that. Like people just felt like they had the entitlement of putting their hands on her. That's a problem for me.
It's a problem. It's a big problem. I don't know. I don't know. I know. Remember how you just said about being? I'm hot now, and I'm sitting in the air conditioning, so I do it. I do it a lot. Like my kid, I get so hot. My kids stay under me.
Oh, because they like that heat.
They like the heat, but then the thing about it is, my kids do it too.
So
They put off the same amount of heat that I do.
Oh, my kid's definitely more like me than her father with that. It's not, I don't know.
So
He has to be like 99 degrees on a regular day.
that's the God mode, I guess.
Actually, I wonder how much melanin absorbs and then starts giving off. You ever think about that?
Yeah, I mean,
I've
because you
literally
think about
wondered that, because does it hold heat? Like if you like, you could feel it from right here. Like I'm not even touching him, and I can feel heat in my hand.
oh yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean, I could tell I'm hot because I can feel it radiating off of me. And but it's kind of like we are our own solar panels.
I have literally thought that before. Like just wondered if I wonder if anyone's ever done this research. Kind of wondering.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they have, since they take melanin and put in chips, the
Like,
microchips.
oh, okay, I thought you were talking about like potato chips. Like for what?
Oh no, they put melanin in microchips, and that's how they run it, because it's such a good conductor of electricity.
what? That's very interesting. They put melanin in computer chips?
Mm-hmm. They put melanin in a lot
Yeah,
of
I haven't
things.
heard that.
I did find something
Oh.
that's back related to the conversation we were supposed to be having, though. I know we segued, which is fine. But I thought this was interesting. I
Yeah, it's
was
always fun.
just Googling high vibration people because for whatever reason that's been kind of my mind. And this thing I found says when you constantly are afraid of what the future holds, you vibrate at a frequency of 100 hertz. And when your heart is full of love and joy, you vibrate higher at 500 hertz. And there's a whole thing here specifically for what frequency you're on by what emotion you're feeling.
Oh, interesting.
You know, I will
So,
say that people that meditate regularly and are like eating all these plants and all of that, their energy is definitely brighter. For at least how I perceive it, it's definitely brighter. It's not heavy. It like some people that are like more on the right wing side, their energy seems like really heavy and just like dark. So I mean, I don't know what that's about, but I definitely see it.
well, I mean, energy transfers. So if the people they listen to have a dark energy, they're just gonna transfer that same energy to them.
But those people live in fear. Like that's what they use. That's what
Yeah,
they
that's what I'm
like.
saying.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I'm saying.
they
Like the people they
it's
listen
gonna
to
be
is
the
transferring, shooting out a fearful energy that's very dark and
Mhm.
heavy. So everybody that's listening to it is gonna hold on to it.
Yeah. Because they
Versus
definitely
like
like
you
to
listen
spread the fear. They
to,
have the fear and then they want to spread it in the worst ways.
yeah. So basically like let's say you do sound therapy or doing like hurt listen to like 532 5 I think it's 532 hertz. It's supposed to be like the healing frequency. So let's say you walk around and you listen to that, and so like everything that's in your body is gonna vibrate off of that. Like you could even use that same hertz on your water and drink it
Yep.
because the water would hold it.
532 is in between love and joy. Love is 500 and joy is 540.
Yeah, so it's like the healing frequency.
Hmm.
There's a whole
And I'm
thing in
pretty
here
sure
about vibrations. It's pretty cool. It's saying like people who have a strong sense of why have high vibration and says they know the reason they do things they do. They have strong vision for their lives and what they want to experience. Because the high vibrational people have a strong why, they can easily achieve their goals. When they do, they vibrate deeper into abundance. They often feel fulfilled in life, and with full and sometimes overflowing cups, they can give and pour into others.
Hmm.
And it also goes into people with low vibration. I see when a person is down themselves and on the scale of consciousness, they normally have a feeling of lack, a lack of reason, love, joy, or peace. When a person lacks these things, it feels as if something is missing. They can't feel love when all they feel is fear, anger, shame, guilt. The spirit of high vibrational people isn't that of fear. It's of love. When they're full of love, they can spread love to others, which expands their hearts even more, which sounds also like energy exchange.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
I just had a crazy idea, a crazy thought, but I was thinking about Star Wars and lightsabers for some reason. And
Did he freeze?
Oh no.
Did he freeze or is he taking a pause?
Head
I
froze.
think he froze. I mean, I think Star Wars and lightsabers will definitely preach. I'm ready for this. I hope he comes back. Hmm.
All right, is that better?
Yep.
Okay.
Hear you fine there.
So
He's back.
Oh, good.
everything is awesome.
When you're part of a team.
what happened?
It cut off when you started talking about lightsabers and Star Wars.
Yeah, see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No, because I was sitting here and I'm listening to like the vibration and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know why Star Wars and lightsabers popped in my head, but like you think about like those lightsabers are different colors. They all hum when you swing them.
Yes,
and a
because of the
certain
kyber
frequency.
crystals, the vibration off of them exerts energy.
Hmm. But like the black one is supposed to be like the I guess the strongest one. I guess I'm assuming.
You talking about the one from the Mandalorian? No, it's not the
Yeah.
strongest one, but it's a specific one that doesn't require a Jedi to use it.
Okay. So
The red are bad, the blue are good, and the purple is Samuel Jackson.
they
No,
will be
seriously.
purple.
He is the
Yeah.
only one who's
He's the
ever
only
allowed
one.
to have a purple lightsaber. It's in the contract. He actually posted a clip where he was talking to George Lucas while they were filming, and he was like explaining to him that
I seen
red is
that.
always going to be the Sith and blue is always going to be the Jedi. And he's like, "What about purple?" He's like, "Hmm." And then Samuel Jackson looked at the camera like, "Ha ha." And in the contract, he is the only Jedi who is allowed to have a purple lightsaber.
I did not know that Samuel L. Jackson was in the Star Wars movies. I mean,
He
I've never
was.
seen them, but I did not know that.
I forgot which one it was, but he's in the.
He's in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones and the one before that in the series.
Well, I think we've gone off like I don't know anything about Star Wars, and I don't understand this analogy.
Vibration.
Okay.
The kyber crystals. We're talking
I see.
Yeah.
Because with the swords.
energy and nature.
Yeah.
It all comes back into woo woo.
Well, there is a YouTuber I watch. He is a former Christian who takes a look at the claims of Christians. That's his whole tagline, what he likes to do. And he grew up Mennonite and then was evangelical. And while he was an evangelical, he worked for George Lucas and did, I don't know if he was like effects or animating or something, but he worked on the movies, the 1, 2, 3 movies. And he feels incredibly strongly about his spiritual connection to Star Wars, like especially even the old ones, because he grew up loving the original Star Wars things. And so like he totally sees parallels with the Christian stories and things throughout Star Wars. Yeah.
It
So
makes sense. I mean,
makes
the
sense to me,
things
yeah.
that the
I guess that's
Jedi
why I
and
went
Sith
in there,
tap
huh?
into make complete sense because the Sith tap into anger and hate for their power, and the more of it they have, the stronger they are. But it's also why they're able to tap into things that Jedi can't tap into, where it's love and logic and understanding for the Jedi, which is why the whole thing about Anakin, when he makes the shift, he goes from being this happy-go-lucky kid racing, pod races to, killing a whole kindergarten of kids. So yeah,
Oh.
I could definitely see that. There's a lot of spirituality in it. The Force in itself is this
That's spiritual.
unifying, balancing power that balances itself, and it also ties into free will in that you could go towards the Force, or in a good way or a bad way. There's so many parallels to spirituality and religion in it if you're willing to dig a little bit, and you really ain't got to dig that far because it's all surface level, but it's just because it's science fiction essentially.
Right.
It's the sugar that helped the pill go down,
basically.
Mm-hmm.
or the medicine I should say, not the pill. Nobody puts sugar, well, not sugar pills, but that's pointless. That's a placebo. Anyway, yeah, that's one of those things that definitely makes sense in the way a lot of it works, and the understanding of the Force and the way the Jedi use it is the whole thing of hope.
Yep.
Yet one more metaphor that we create for ourselves to try to connect to that which we can't describe. Yeah.
It's also supposed to be tied into Knights of the Round Table in a way.
Yeah.
See, that I'm familiar with. I read a King Arthur retelling.
Ooh.
Star Wars, I couldn't do it. I tried, couldn't do it. Couldn't get into it. I mean, I don't know that it's a bad, like, I'm not like coming for it or anything. I couldn't get into it. I kept falling asleep like early in the movies. So
I don't know. It's just something I do. Like Star Wars is something I do when I'm actually bored and I ain't got nothing else to watch. Okay, let me watch Star Wars. But then once you actually get into it, it's like you gotta watch all of them.
The stories are really good. I mean, Dave
Yeah.
Filoni is amazing.
I mean, what I think like the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is like a really good story too.
The Mandalorian is a Western. That's why everybody likes it. They don't even realize it.
Yeah, it's a
It's a,
Western.
a sci-fi Western. But like if
Yeah.
you look into something like, so even for the purpose of this conversation, the Bad Batch, you have the stormtroopers who were on the same side as the Jedi, but then Order 66 came down and all of them turned on the Jedi and essentially started killing them, except for a few of them. And then they start questioning what's going on as they're watching everything shift from we're the good guys to now we're the bad guys and trying to figure out where they sit in it. It's really well done story.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all over the map.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've gone off topic too.
I mean, it still connects to spirituality. Just it's just like basically connects to everybody's differently. The way we telling the stories, cause we done been on high level conversations worth of spirituality, and now we down to like where kids can understand it.
Yeah, something for everybody. I mean, it's got to
Yeah.
put it in palatable formats for where you're at your point in the ascension. You know, if you're at the base
Yeah.
of the mountain, then we got to keep it super simple. If you're farther up the mountain, then we can really dig into some details because you got the reference to understand. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is the math of this section of the mountain. You need to understand these things to get to the next part of it. So it's just learning the pieces you need to get to before you get to the next level.
Yep. So we literally just gave them steps up the mountain.
Agreed. Agreed. Wow. Well, I think if we start anything else, we're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
So we made it to Star Wars, so I kind of think that qualifies as we did it.
And no mushrooms were brought up.
Right.
Is that a Star Wars reference too? Because I don't get
That's
it.
just another spiritual reference. I think we talked about in the last one, but we didn't dig too deep into it. You know what? We did talk about mushrooms the last time. And
I think
almost
so.
the same manner that we talked about cannabis in this one.
Yeah.
A mushroom and
Yeah.
cannabis church. Let's do it.
I'm here for it.
Me
Well, at least
too.
we didn't bring up LSD.
We brought that up last time too.
Yeah. Or PCP or something like that.
Well, PCP can stay out of all conversations along with DMT. Like, oh, that's one we didn't talk about. DMT, the
DMT.
God particle.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Somebody offered me
I-
that once at a party, and I was like, no, thank you. I'm good.
What?
Oh,
You can
DMT is one I would definitely want to try.
Yeah, no,
You
thank
can
you.
do
I'm
DMT
good.
naturally though.
It's true.
I'm sure
Meditation
they
and
were.
stuff, right?
I just didn't want
Breath
to take
work.
part in it. It was
Yeah, I would never
people-
take something like that offered at a party.
Yeah, it was
Oh, that's
like a after Burning
That's a
Man
danger
party.
zone.
Oh, wow.
That's a
Yeah,
danger
people
zone.
at Burning Man are just take a lot of drugs in the desert, so they're having some spiritual experiences. But the afterburn party was like, oh yeah, you want some DMT? I'm like, nah, I'm good, bro. I got weed. Appreciate it though.
great.
I'm
Well, I
good.
think we discovered we need to
I
have a
just
drug
keep doing my
episode.
breath work.
Yeah. No, that you're right. That's what I've heard too, that meditation can bring on the DMT. That's wise,
Mhm.
Raphael. That's wise.
Or peyote.
Well, we're closing in on, should we do an actual ending here? Look at that. Well, thanks
Yeah, we
everybody
might.
for joining for another round of spirituality. We have run the gamut since we ended up at Star Wars. So if we want to have another deep dive into something at some point, I am always here for it. But I appreciate each and every one of you, and it was lovely to hear from you. Anybody have final things they want to say?
Good conversation.
As
Yeah.
always.
Yep.
I'm down for another round of it.
All right.
Me too. I'm always ready. Unless I'm at home.
We'll keep you chatting on the road. It'll be good times.
Yeah.
All right. Night, everybody.
All right. Good night, friends.
Uh,
Bye.
Oh, wait.